one of the big criticisms of the TVET sector is that the curriculum is outdated. So we're sitting with N programs, we're sitting with NCV. NCV is not relevant, lecturers complain about it, etc., etc. And no matter what we say, even if we sit right now and develop curriculum, it's going to be outdated by the time it hits the desks and hits the print and so on. And so one of the things that we have said to colleges is that how do you stay abreast with what is new? Information and technology is just moving at such a rapid pace. And where are we in TVET colleges? How far are we? What's this gap that we are needing to actually try and close? And so for me, it was just, let's get a sense of reality and where we are globally. Where are we from a vocational perspective globally? Why do we perform so badly, in South Africa? Why do we don't even compare globally? So it's about just taking our work seriously and saying, look, we've got to find these college industry partnerships. We've got to work with the industry. We've got to know what's going on out there. Our lecturers are never going to be the experts that we deem them to be, because they're going to be constantly outdated simply because they're not in contact with what is happening in the industry. This is the premise, that closing the gap between work and learning through work-integrated learning. And that is the gap we're talking about. And I think that's what the video talks about. What is that gap? How do we close it? And in the last 7 years, we've been looking at this. And we started off in 2008 just sending a few students to the workplace on the NCV program during their school holidays. Let's see how that works. And actually, that first year of sending a few students for 5-10 days in the workplace at level 2 on the NCV met with a lot of success from the point of view that we didn't think employers would like these NCV students, because one of the big questions around the NCV is really, what is the product that comes out of the NCV? Does it work? Doesn't it work? And when employers, I think it was about 99% of, there were 4 colleges and there were about 27 employers in the very first year that loved the NCV. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier is that it wasn't so much, it seemed like the fundamental component of that NCV did do something for those students, that they spoke better, that they seemed to have a better knowledge base. And employees seemed to think that they were kinds of students that you could build on compared to the N program, where the theory and the practical was just lost. There was nothing that they could do. With the N students, they did some practical. So there were some fundamentals there also in terms of skill that they could basically work with. And so that allowed us to go to the next round, which was level 3 the following year, and then level 4, which is the exit year of the NCV. The other thing then is that how do we now sustain this, and how do we get it out of project mode, and how do we start building this into the system? And so we started looking at assessing more. Where does it happen? How does it happen? What is the content that is going to be assessed, etc., etc. And in about 2012, what we did was that we looked at structure. We had already developed a workbook for students to take into the workplace. But what we did in about 2012 is align the activities of that workbook with the assessment guidelines of the NCV in a particular program. And so we began to assess for. Now you must remember, there were all kinds of conditions of employment questions that came up in the first years. Lecturers didn't want to be involved. They felt this is not their job, this is too much of work, this extra work, etc., etc. But when they were involved in assessing this particular component, taking those task books and marking those activities when the students came back, we actually found lecturers saying this was a better assessment in terms of quality, because remember it's part of their continuous, their earmark, their ICAS, the internal continuous assessment mark. And each college is responsible for their own ICAS. So they must develop and design their assessments. And what happened here was that this became, it started developing a standard, firstly. Secondly, lecturers felt there was no need to have all these sort of separate assessments going on, and they felt that, well, all colleges could do the same thing. They also found that it brought the workplace component into it, which they were struggling to do. And in terms of quality, it was a better, the quality was far better than what they were doing. So that brought the lecturers on board, firmly so. And I think that we struggled a little bit because lecturers don't go for the same purpose that students go. students go for general observation and experience, whereas lecturers have specific needs. And so we began to look at this in 2013 with the NBI. We worked with a few colleges, left it in 2008, relooked at it in 2013, and came up with a program that we think works. And currently what we are doing is that we're working with the 15 universities, and because you know that the new vocational qualifications, the diploma, has got a work integrated learning component in it, and we're looking at recognition of prior learning. So if lecturers at a TVET college go for 5 days diploma, then through recognition of prior learning, that work-based learning component is actually, they meet the requirements of that. So lecturers have come on board in 2 ways. One, to manage the workplace learning for their students, and the other is to go out into the workplace as part of their continued professional development, and then earning points for that. The next thing that we are doing is that, as in Switzerland, Germany, you have what we call lecturer exchange. So vocational education and training, as we know about it locally, is when we talk about vocational education, we talk about the NCV, which is the general education. But abroad, vocational education actually encompasses the occupational stuff as well. So it's the occupational education and training, meaning the dual system, the apprenticeships. And what happens is that lecturers spend months in a workplace, and experts from the workplace, so there's an exchange, spend time in the classroom teaching. So there's an equal transfer of skill in both ways, and they keep abreast all the time. It's a very new concept in South Africa. Companies will not take our lecturers into their business, and I don't believe for that. So what we have been trying to do is, let's look at the first round of this. Is it possible to have guest lecturers come into the classroom? Experts that come into the classroom and talk to a particular topic. And for our Swiss Chamber of Commerce project, we are looking at what is the model? What is the model that works? What is the model that we can test in South Africa in terms of guest lecturing?